Is Vaseline actually good for your face? A dermatologist's honest verdict after 20 years. Let me hold this up for a second. This tiny jar costs 100 to 200 rupees maybe. And yet, after 20 years in dermatology, I can confidently tell you this. For pure barrier repair, wound healing, protected damaged skin, very few skincare products outperform this simple jar. And honestly, that should make a lot of people uncomfortable. Women are spending 3 to 5,000, sometimes even 10,000 of rupees on barrier repair creams and skin recovery serums, many of which are doing fundamentally the same thing. Now, before the comments explode, let me say this clearly. Vaseline is not glamorous. It's not trendy. It's not in a frosted glass packaging. It doesn't contain 23 actives. But from a dermatology perspective, it is a validated skincare ingredient that we have. And I want to explain why. What petroleum jelly actually is, and two biggest myths around it which are completely wrong, and why as dermatologists we still use it constantly. There are 8 evidence-based uses for it, and who should absolutely not be putting it on their face. Because I genuinely think most people have misunderstood this little jar for years. What is Vaseline actually? The technical term is petroleum jelly. Vaseline is simply the most famous brand name. The word petroleum makes people very nervous and jittery, especially when, clean beauty marketing has convinced people that every chemical sounding word is automatically dangerous, harmful, cancerous. But petroleum jelly is not crude oil, not even remotely close. Cosmetic grade petroleum jelly is highly purified, triple refined. The harmful compounds which are linked to crude petroleum are removed during purification. What you're left with is USP grade white petroleum jelly, which is pharmaceutical grade, extremely inert. In fact, one of the largest patch test studies ever conducted on cosmetic ingredients found only 2 allergic reactions out of more than 800,000, that's 8 lakh exposures. Think about how extraordinary that is. Dermatologists have been recommending petroleum jelly for hundreds of years, so has our grandmothers. But the safety data is incredibly strong. The 2 biggest myths? Let's address these. Because these myths refuse to die. The first myth, Vaseline causes cancer. Oh my god. This confusion comes from crude petroleum called PAHs or polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are absolutely carcinogenic. But these compounds are removed during purification. Properly refined cosmetic petroleum jelly does not contain the same risk. Honestly, this fear mainly survives because of the word petroleum, which sounds scary. The second myth is the one that I hear constantly from Indian women. Won't Vaseline clog my pores, doc? Surprisingly, no. Petroleum jelly is non-comedogenic, and here's why. The molecules are too large to enter into the pores. They're occlusive when they sit on top of the skin, but they can't penetrate to clog the pores like heavier oils or waxes. But the way you apply, the technique matters. If you apply Vaseline to dirty skin, sweat, pollution, makeup, sunscreen buildup, yes, it'll trap whatever there is, all the debris against the skin. But that's not the Vaseline causing it. It's the poor technique causing the acne and clog. So always cleanse. And here are interesting things to know. And to understand why petroleum jelly works so well, you need to understand one important concept. Your skin barrier. Your skin is constantly losing water into the environment. This process is called transepidermal water loss or TEWL, especially in air conditioning during the summer and in the winter with heating climates, harsh skincare routines, overexfoliation, retinoids, irritation, eczema. When the barrier becomes damaged, the skin starts losing moisture faster. And once the barrier weakens, inflammation increases, sensitivity increases, irritation increases, and petroleum jelly works because it creates a physical seal on that skin. Doesn't hydrate, doesn't moisturize your skin directly, but it seals in what's already there. And clinically, it's one of the most effective occlusive agents. Studies show petroleum jelly can reduce water loss by up to 99%. 99%. That is why it works beautifully for damaged skin. Not because of anything else. It protects the barrier long enough for the skin underneath to recover. And honestly, a skin barrier solves more problems than you realize. So how do dermatologists actually use it? Let's talk about the ways dermatologists use this. This is where the internet gets very different from real clinical practice. Number 1, slugging. that viral TikTok trend that dermatologists have quietly used for decades. Slugging simply means applying a thin layer as the final step of your night routine. I want to emphasize the word thin, not thick. You don't need to look like a glazed donut. When it's done properly, it dramatically helps dry skin, barrier damage, retinoid, irritation, dryness, flaky skin, especially in dry climates or heavy air conditioning. But in humid Indian summers, it's a different story, and we'll come back to that. Number two, wound healing. This is one of the strongest evidence based uses for petroleum jelly. Small cuts, scrapes, minor abrasions, post procedure healing. Dermatologists often recommend this over antibiotic creams for simple wounds. Why? Because moist wound healing heals better than dry wound healing. When wounds dry out completely, the healing actually slows down and you get scabbing. Whereas petroleum jelly protects the wound, allowing the skin underneath to repair itself, and important, without the allergic risks. Number three, lip care. Honestly, the most expensive lip balms are nowhere near as effective as petroleum jelly for dry lips as occlusive. Petroleum jelly contains no fragrance, no menthol, no irritating flavor agents, and no drying alcohol, which is why it's great for cracked lips overnight. Occlusive, remember that. Number four, under eye area. Right here, the skin around the eye is the thinnest skin on the face, which means it loses moisture faster. And a tiny amount of petroleum jelly around the dry eyelids or flaky under eyes can be incredibly soothing, especially in winter air conditioning, eczema prone skin, or after overusing actives. Number five, eczema. Almost every dermatologist uses petroleum jelly in eczema management because eczema is fundamentally a barrier disorder and barrier repair is critical for this treatment. So studies show that regular barrier protection in high risk infants reduces eczema development later in life. That's how powerful barrier maintenance can be. In the Indian context, who should avoid it? And here's where the Indian context becomes really important because skincare advice online is often created for completely different climates. What works beautifully in New York in winter is a terrible thing in Mumbai during monsoon or in Bangalore during summer. And this is where very Indian women go wrong with Vaseline. If you have oily skin, acne-prone skin, live in a humid coastal city, having slugging will trap that heat and sweat and trigger malaria, heat rashes, sweat duct blockages. This is why skincare should be adapted to your climate, your skin type, your season. Dry Delhi winter, very different from humid Chennai summer skin. And one more important caution, don't apply petroleum directly over active infected acne lesions. Always use it on clean skin. My honest verdict, after 20 years in dermatology, petroleum jelly is underrated. Not because it's exciting, but because it works and the science behind it has remained consistent for decades. I keep it in my home. We use it for the lips, barrier repair, wound healing, and I do recommend it constantly to my patients as an occlusive agent. It's not elegant like other barrier creams. It's not packaged beautifully or marketed, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work. And the most expensive creams are not useless. Absolutely not. Ingredients like antioxidants, peptides, pigment suppressants, exfoliants all have important roles. But when it comes to purely sealing and protecting the skin barrier, the humble jar performs extraordinarily well. Here's how I would personally use it for Indian skin. In winter, a tiny amount as the last step at night on top of all the other products. This is the final layer. And I mean tiny, a thin film, not thick like a snail. For lips, overnight. For minor cuts, abrasions, great first line sealant. For under eyes, flaky eyelids, useful. And in humid summer weather, especially if your skin is oily, use it cautiously on the face. And avoid full face slugging altogether. The bottom line, here it is. Tiny 100 or 200 rupee jar is one of the oldest, safest, and most clinically validated skincare product in dermatology. It's not carcinogenic when it's properly refined. It's not automatically pore clogging, and for barrier repair, wound healing, lip care, eczema support, moisture retention, works exceptionally well as a sealant along with the barrier creams. Sometimes better than products costing 20 times more. And honestly, the more mature I get as a dermatologist and more experience, I realize good skincare is less complexity, more about understanding what genuinely works. Your grandmother actually may have been right about this one. And now I want to know from you. Have you ever used Vaseline on your face? Have you tried slugging? Did it help or break you out? What's the strangest skincare myth you grew up hearing in India? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want deeper videos on slugging, skin barrier repair, damaged skin, eczema, lip care, or the biggest skincare myths dermatologists are tired of hearing, let me know. This is Dr. Chatra, your Indian beauty doc, signing off till next week.